hello, everybody from the global planet. This is Heather Lockett with Lasting Conversations, and I'm here with Karen Mosbacher. Hey, Karen.
Hello, good to see you.
Karen is a prolific and gifted artist. You are multifaceted, multidimensional. You bring the world of music to your art and color. You are an award-winning, Emmy award-winning short documentary called I Paint Music, which is very, very exciting. And you're here to share some very important things about you, about art, about synesthesia, about creation, and Phoenix Rising. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you very much. I want to thank you, Heather, for this Lasting Conversations podcast. Ever since I found out about you doing it, I've been listening. It's so important. I am so grateful and honored to be here with you.
Thank you. And I really, really appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and let a little cat out of the bag and let folks know that this is actually a very special day for both Karen and myself, because we haven't seen each other physically in a long time, or even through the cameras. But her name, Mosbacher, is actually my last name. As most of you know, I got to have two dads, and my dad, David Mosbacher, is Karen's uncle. And so we are first cousins. So this is like a little bit of a family reunion, but it's a reunion of creative minds. And it's kind of interesting and kind of nice and kismet how we have, since talking and getting kind of rekindled, understanding where our gifts are, and that even though we've been cousins across the decades and across time that haven't been with each other, we share some commonality, and it is called expression, and it's called feeling a certain way, which we will get into, and how we can use our gifts to ultimately help other people as we are helping ourselves. So, Karen, cousin, let's have fun.
Let's do.
So tell us about, first of all, for those listening, we're just going to help paint a picture for you, because Karen is in her home, and which is also a studio, and her camera sits on top of a grand piano, which is beautiful musically. And we're looking at all this exquisite artwork. So and also to let you know that we're going to be on YouTube. So this is being filmed. So everything that we're talking about, many of the pieces that we get to see right now, and we will also kind of cut in some of her artwork as well when we have the YouTube video. So Karen, we could start where you would like to start. You could be with your synesthesia, and it could be with as a child and your dancing and music, and how all of this started to come to be for you.
When I was young, I had the synesthesia. Of course, we didn't have a name for it until about 1983, when a scientist named Richard Sidgwick, who'd been studying this neurological phenomenon, named it. And there are many forms of synesthesia. Mine is the one, I have several forms, but the one I use in my work is called chromesthesia, which means I see sound in color and shape and texture. And when I listen to music and I have this visual of what's going on, then I try to paint what I see on the canvas. I've been painting music now for a long time, especially after I found out what synesthesia was. And you can go down a rabbit hole on the computer about all the many different kinds. Most people have some form. Mine is a little bit more rare than some of the common ones. And then depending on the music that I paint, which is usually classical music or new music, which is classical instruments with a new beat. And I love to paint jazz. I also paint any sound, actually. So spoken poetry, I've done that with a wonderful poet laureate. That was an exhilarating experience for both of us, actually. The energy exchange was just unreal. And I've painted with some kids who did some dumpster diving and found some fun things to make noise, so percussion-ish type things, and that was a blast.
That's so fun. So basically what you're saying is as the music is playing, you get this is an extra sensory perception situation. And so you are feeling it, you're seeing it, you're hearing it, and it's coming through you that you now express in color. Did I get that right? Or is there more?
And sometimes I will take the color out of it just for compositional works, which if you're watching on YouTube, what's behind me is rhythmic pieces. Because rhythm is so different if it's just more of a tonal thing of not just drums, but vibes and things like that. And I use artistic license actually to create a composition that makes more sense to other people. And over the years, things change. If you come into my inventory and look around, you can tell the difference between the jazz and the classical and the rhythmic works pretty readily. And it's fun. I have a lot of collectors who come and just want to look in my inventory and discover what all I've done. And that's a lot of fun for me to share that with them.
These are also beautiful. And I was looking at your website earlier this morning with all the different works that you have. So I understand what you're saying. Some piece by Schumann evokes something different than the drum beat, which is different than the jazz fusion, which is different than the next thing, and which may also be different than what's coming just through you, which I'm assuming you also paint, you do commissions and things like that. So more than the music expression, you have Karen expression too.
Yes, that's right. I have painted since I think my first set of watercolors, I was maybe 4 years old, and I'm much older than that now, and have been painting what I consider to be music. A lot of people, especially when I was younger, my teachers and my parents didn't understand what was going on with me, and no one did really. But my father was a pianist, and so I would lay under the piano and wave my arms and sort of draw with my fingers what I saw. And it was a struggle until we figured out what was happening. And I want to say, when I lived in Santa Fe, I would go up to Ghost Ranch, which is near Abiquiu, where Georgia O'Keeffe lived, and hike a lot. And there's this one rock that I love to sit on and watch the sun go down because the colors in the desert change so beautifully. And I felt this presence behind me, and I heard Georgia O'Keeffe say to me, "Paint what you see." And I thought, okay, so that's when I started painting music. And it's been really wonderful for me because I did try to learn to play the piano, a violin, a cello, and it just wasn't something that connects in my brain. And so I found my way to express music. It's different, but it's a joy of my life.
It's so beautiful. And you have art showings, is it around the country or mostly out in the West and Midwest area?
On occasion, I'll have pieces in Atlanta and Oklahoma City, and in the Colorado, Santa Fe, Denver corridor, in this Pikes Peak area is what they call it. And some may be coming soon, other places.
Fun.
I did for a little while in Lyon, France, and that was fun. Yes. So
nice.
Yeah.
So one of the other things which I think you had mentioned doing a live, and these are on some of your YouTube videos and things, or having a concert, and your son plays a beautiful viola. So something that's really exciting is to watch your whole process while the music is being played. And so this whole symphony happening in a room. Tell us about these moments, because I find them extremely fascinating.
I have had the fortune to play with my son and his partner, who's an exquisite pianist. Mm-hmm. They're called the Ezra Duo, and it's a lot of fun to play with them. Just a lot of the connection. I try not to upstage the musicians and just kind of stay over in the corner, but a lot of people do watch what's happening. I've painted with some pretty good to pretty up and coming and also very famous string quartets. And the live performance of it is very interesting and, for me, extremely fast. I actually create my own music. I take pieces of paper, and whether it's the movements of the piece of music, or if I just have, for example, about a year ago, I did one that was 12 minutes long and created a whole painting. That was fast. But I create my own music of the different layers of colors that I'm putting and actually put them on music stands, prepare my paint and my brushes so I know, and I practice. I guess it's air practicing, just like musicians do, to make the marks and keep up with the music. And it can be pretty stressful, but at the end, it is just amazing. And it's fun to watch too. I've watched my videos, and a lot of people say, "That's so cool. Do it again. Do it again." So it's so much fun.
Well, that's just it, because does one get into it's such a momentary moment in these things. So you were practicing, and yet I'll put that as a question. Can you do it again? Or is this is what's been channeled? It just comes right through inspiration. And it's a one-time masterpiece.
Well, here's the interesting thing with synesthesia, and at least my synesthesia. I can only speak to what I have.
Uh-huh.
If someone were to play a piece on the viola and I would see it, then it would be like this. And if someone else were to play the same piece on a different viola, it looks different, because
Yep.
what I'm seeing are the vibrations and sound waves, actually. And so maybe the color's a little different. And so the second time I might play, even with the same group, it can be different, just because things happen and we're all different. And every time we do anything, it's different.
Absolutely. Oh, I get that. Well, the quantum physics conversations of why that's even true, and energy and vibration. So I understand completely.
Mhm.
Now, so of your artworks, and you've been doing, I know what I was going to ask. You have mixed media. So do you have a favorite? And do you also do sculpture? Tell us more about all the different kinds of creativity that you utilize.
I think I've been a painter as long as I can remember, and I paint with acrylics and oils and all sorts of there's all kinds of new materials coming out all the time.
Mm-hmm.
In the parts that have a lot of mark making, like what's behind me, I will use different materials from liquid graphite, charcoal, water soluble graphite, which is a totally different look, many kinds of paint pens, inks, just everything that I can experiment with. Sometimes I'll even dip a stick into some ink and create an unusual mark. I use pastels to create light colors, even tailor chalk that mark your pants to get them fitted. So I am experimental, definitely. And as far as sculpture goes, that's a new item for me. It was my first time in November to show some sculpture. I did some pieces that I wanted to be very personal. So I had my face 3D scanned, which was a trip. And then we 3D printed my face. And then I attached them to some cubes of wood, which were very delicate. And there was a lot of sanding and painting and sanding and painting. When you're working with sculpture, it's very, very tedious. That's something new. And then the other art that I do we call it installation art, which is a combination of things, kind of depending on what the story is. Usually installation art tells a story of some kind. So I've done several different kinds of installation.
All of which is just fun and amazing, and whatever your passion at that moment, or maybe what the commission is. So I know you had some gallery showings, and let's talk about the No More Silence. That series is very, very powerful.
Yes. I felt this need to tell a story about what I'd been through in my life, and began working on some paintings to express a lot of grief anger, and all sorts of different emotions that were coming. And I really just started it and thought it was just for me. But then when some people started seeing it, even one of my gallery owners saw it, and she said, "This isn't just for you, this is for everyone who has suffered." That was meaningful to me. Also, I got to show it to Jerry Saltz, who is the New York art critic for I just follow him, and he's just phenomenal. He's been an art critic for years, and his wife too. I just love them to death. They're the kindest people, two artists. We have a hard job, and I had by this chance that I created, got to spend some time on Zoom with him. And so I showed him these paintings that I was doing, and he asked me a lot of questions about what I'd been through. And I think that the word that I held on to the most was, he told me this work is important. And so I really held on to that, because I thought, if I've been through this, so have other people. So I wanted to create. A lot of people don't know how to put their feelings into words, but they sure can relate to a piece of artwork. So I created the part one, actually, of this series of work called Collateral Beauty. I named it that because of people hear about this is all the collateral damage, but there is collateral beauty in the after part of going through something like this. And this one was called No More Silence. And about 16 years before I started working on that, I did one painting of a woman that represented, she's kind of has gray hair on one side, and then she's younger on the other side. And then all of the colors in the background represent skin tones. And she has this black tattoo of a handprint over her mouth. And I was, at the time in my master's work, was studying nonviolence and read a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh thought and theory about it, and realized that I was living in violence. And that was accompanied my thesis. And it was very meaningful. And when I took it to hand in, this is before we did things on computers, and long time ago, I handed in my paper, and then she said, "Is that a painting that you have?" And I turned it around and I showed it to her, and I said, "This accompanies this paper." And she took it and she started weeping. She said, I can feel this. I can feel the sadness in this, and also the understanding of what happens when we as women are silenced, or people treat us with silence. So that's kind of how that started 16 years before. So as I was making all of this work and doing these paintings, I had these visions, and once that word important was given to me, I started drawing like a mad woman. I drew these sculptures and installations, and started thinking about, the memories were coming hard and fast, and I was writing them down as fast as I could. And so this compilation, I guess, is of this particular exhibit, was mostly of a 25-year time period in my life where I was in a very uncomfortable relationship. I have an installation called Dirty Laundry, which are literal laundry lines on poles. And on each side, there are different pieces of art, paintings, collage, some photographs that tell my story. There was 2 big laundry lines of that. And then I did these sculptures where this face was sinking down into a cube, and it was called Suffocated into Nothing. And then there was an answer to it. And then the cubes got smaller. And then on the other answer to it, the cubes got larger. And it was sort of like a coming up for breath and coming back alive. And the name of that particular set of those sculptures was named after a Nietzsche quote. And the Nietzsche quote says, "We have art, so we shall not die of reality." And so the name of that particular set of sculptures, where the face is breathing and coming up for air, says it's called "I Will Not Die of Reality." I created a catalog of all the work, which I've sent to you, Heather. It's quite interesting. And I would say the most interesting thing for me during the exhibit, which was about 30 days long, was the number of women and a few men who came to me to tell me their story. One woman even said, "Is this about my ex-husband?" Which was funny.
Wow.
Because it's so common today. And it was, I think that's why I did it. I wanted to start the conversation about this. The American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy calls it intimate terrorism. Most of the abuse is verbal or critical, controlling, a lot of silence. And it's so prevalent. And I knew it had to have been happening other than just with me. And it opened this door that was unreal. I also had a small desk called the secrets desk. When I was leaving this relationship, I was stuffing money in this. It has all these little drawers. It's like a little writing desk and pockets. And every time I'd sell some art or do something else, I would stuff cash in there. And I put also little remembrances of letters and journals and things that I had written. And above it hung this mirror that you could look into, but around the edge of it were lots of different photos of my dad and my mother and a couple of my siblings and some of me throughout my life. And then the circle around the mirror, it went from my dad's childhood to, I think there's only one picture of me and my mother. That's not uncommon for her not to be around me. And then all of the things that I've been through in my life. And towards the end at the bottom, there were I put the picture of me with the EMMY and some different things in there that, things have been okay, even though I've been through this very difficult life. And at the bottom, it said, can you see me? And also I had a jewelry box that sat on the desk, and I put these little cards down and a note that said, "Write a secret and put it in the box. It will be safe there." And I got 135 secrets in the box. And one person told me that they did it. And I said, "Did you feel relief when you let that go?" And they burst into tears. So it was a wonderfully, was wonderful healing for me, but all the people that came and experienced it and took part in the different things that you could do in the show, it also really helped them too. And I've kept in touch with some. It's been a very rewarding experience.
Wow.
Which is totally different from the music,
Mm-hmm.
but it's lots of stuff is coming out of me now, which is great.
Well, this is just, it's vital and important. And the depth of it is extraordinary. And to tap in and to be that vulnerable and to put it out there and to let people see and experience and have it tap into something of them or their own experience or their family experience is important. And it is bigger than us and much appreciated. So as a little bit of context too, the part that really was getting to me was the description of the boxes and essentially dying. Now, some people, get into you can die unto self, but some people quite literally die.
I did.
Whether it's from the hands of an abuser or whatever extraordinary things that silence can kill, and that to have that level of non-breath to then be able to wake up and express. Help me with some words, because we could say transcendent, but it's everything.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, when I got to have that conversation with Jerry Saltz, which I have permission to, he said, use anything you want to. He's such a great supporter of artists. He asked me questions about it, and I did tell him about that, being dead for 5 minutes and then waking up and knowing what I had to do immediately, even though I had to learn how to walk and talk and swallow, read. I just couldn't do anything. There was so much damage. And sometimes I say, and look at me now, because I'm so thrilled about it. But he asked me, he said, did you ever ask yourself why you lived through that catastrophe? And I used to ask myself that a lot before I met him. And then when I did meet him, I realized that I lived so I can tell my story, to help other people tell their story, because getting it out of your body is amazing. And when you tell your story and someone can understand that and not feel they're so alone, it is a wonderful healing circle that just keeps getting larger and larger and larger. And that's still happening. I've been asked to teach with several therapists some of the art things that I did that created healing for me. I just can't wait to do that. I actually have also started on the next part of Collateral Beauty, which is called Scars. That's a working title, but it has to do with all the physical scars on my body from that surgery and from the other things that they had to do to me to keep me alive, plus many other things, emotional scars, psychological scars, all the scars you can imagine. So I am in the midst of creating and drawing and sketching and thinking about how all of that exhibition will work together. And hopefully it'll come to fruition in maybe 2026.
Beautiful. That's just beautiful. And from there, is there something else you're working on? The life we build after, is that something that you're curating at the moment?
Yes, that's also been on my mind, about this freedom that you experience, but also the fear that keeps you careful. And safety is a lens that I look through about everything. And so this came to me, it's been about 2 months ago, and I can't let it go. So I don't know if it's going to be part of Collateral Beauty or if it will be other artwork. It has to do with music too. But this life that you build after, I heard this saying from someone who had also left, or I've also heard this from someone who had someone die in their life. And any trauma, the life we build after sometimes becomes this fortress of safety. And what I've realized is, in building my own fortress, that when you block out the sadness and the anger, you're also blocking out the love, because it's the same feeling, just on one end or the other. And that's been a big aha for me. So I'm exploring that even more, about how that is when you come to a place of healing and you feel this freedom, then what? So.
And that's just it. And yay, because that's just it, because there is joy on the other side. And we've had a few other guests on our show who've, Kathleen L., who now is in Albuquerque as we speak, and with the suicide of her son. So the things that are shattering, and now you learn to thrive. You go through your process, and that her gift is helping other parents, other people go through their grief and trauma as well, especially when it feels inexplicable. Like, how is this even happening in my life, and how did I get here? And is there life, the joyous part, on the other side of this. And so you and Kathleen, and we're all here to say, yes, there is.
Mhm.
Yes, there
Sometimes
is. So
overwhelming.
well, there you go. Well, and isn't that a whole saying too? Is that we're afraid of our joy? We're afraid of living that large and that woohoo and that colorful. And I know right now we're seeing many of your works in it's black and white, but you have, and we'll put them up on the YouTube video. Is they're full of color and vibrancy. And so let's segue right into that part that might go right back to the music, but it's that phoenix rising, the joy of this is really why we're here.
Yes. There's something that I have said in the last 2 years to people who are around me. I don't know what to do with all this happiness.
There you go. Right.
They giggle.
Yeah.
They giggle because they don't understand that. What do you mean you don't know what to do with it? You
Right.
don't live with that for a long time, or maybe your whole life, like I have. It's like eating a new food for the first time, or meeting someone that you're not sure of for the first time. And I realized that's I've heard other people say that. So the life we build after, what do you do with that? And how does that affect you? And how do you come to that? And the phoenix rising, or what I call the firebird, I did 3 paintings. One was a painting of me dissolving, and just the particles were spreading out. It was a figurative drawing, painting where this body is just dissolving. And then the next one was when I remembered learning how to walk and talk and becoming myself again. And one of the fears after I died was, will I still be able to paint what I do? What can I paint the music? Can I paint the sound? And it took some time, but it started coming back. So the second painting in that the triptych it's me again, with some lighter colors and these colorful fractals moving and forming my spine and coming back into my body, which is the life coming back, or some people might say the resurrection. And then the third piece in it, I call the Firebird. One, because that's my absolute favorite ballet ever. And I saw it when I was a very young woman, and it impacted me so much. It is the story of the phoenix that goes into ashes and then rises again for a new life. And it is me in my, I was a dancer before dinosaurs roamed the earth. And it is my figurative self again in a ballet pose with my toe shoes on. Of course, I could not put them on now, but swirling, and my arms are raised, and it's just this uplifting joy that I had when I found this freedom. So the story keeps continuing. The life we build after. Once that joy comes, then what do you do with all the happiness? Because if you've never lived in it, then, you have to think about those things.
I just love that. It's like a big platter of yum. Like, okay, and now what? And are you happy too? And it just, yeah.
Yes.
And it brings us to the fun part. Yeah.
Yes.
And they giggle.
You say, I don't know what to do with all this happiness, and they giggle. It makes me feel good because they think about it themselves. Oh, I have happiness. What am I doing with this? So it's also a very reflective statement,
Right.
for others. So just every day is a new day, and every day brings something unexpected and sometimes wonderful, sometimes not. But now I have the freedom to make my decision.
And there it is.
Yeah.
You have your own freedom that we'll just leave it at that. I think this is what all of us really crave and know is possible. but can get so hidden away that goes back to the silencing in different aspects of, if we don't think we're worthy or deserving of joy, of money, of a healthy relationship, because God knows if we don't know what that even looks like, just all of the parts and pieces of that after. And I think that each of us here are here to reach one. So if somebody is feeling in their own muck and mire and anxiety, if we've walked in some of those shoes, like you were describing, if someone could just bear as a witness bearer, then we can say, you'll be okay. And we all have your back. That was one of my podcasts, that I was drawn to the ocean, to literally, that was the message that was coming out of me. I didn't have a paintbrush, but my words were the paintbrush at that time, which was, we all have each other's backs. And this is really why we're here.
Yes.
So Karen, what else is lighting you up? Is there anything else on your horizon, or something we haven't tapped into yet for this particular conversation that you want to go ahead and talk about?
Every time someone tells me their story, I feel ignited to continue. I am always here for someone to tell me their story or share. I'm not a professional counselor, so I always, if it seems that they need something, I always say, this I went there. It helped me a lot. I have a therapist, and I don't feel like there's anything wrong, but she walks beside me in my new journey. We have created a new foundation in my life of the things that I want in my life and need in my life. And that whole understanding of creating that new person, and then watching my art change into something new, is fascinating to me. I do think art therapy is a wonderful avenue to explore things. You don't have to be an artist. A lot of people say, well, I can't draw a straight line. Well, I can't either. I have to use
and maybe that's the point, right? That's exactly the point. What lines? Color outside the lines, just do it, or dance, or move, or sing, or get something out of you, whatever that is.
And I think most of all, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, and know that it's not just for me, it is for others, to explore in depth what happened to me, and then how I can continue to keep being who I am and discovering who I am, which is that's a new chapter as well. When I've been told who I was my whole life, and now I'm discovering who I am. That's why I have my name on my apron. I just have to remember, this is who I was born to be, and this is what I was born to do. And it has something to not just me, but with the world. It's my way to make the world a better place. And also, today is hard in our world, and I feel that art has saved me my entire life. Not just the music and the visual art, but all kinds of art. And I feel as much as I can share, it's going to help others as well, and reach out and begin the conversation and continue the conversation.
That's beautiful. And especially if we've grown into the storylines from our families or society of the spaces of who we're not. So, but we were told, oh, you're too this, or, one is too fat, or you too this, or the color of your skin, or all these shameful things. Bad boy, bad girl, all these little shame spaces. Those are the spaces that can really do the damage, that collateral damage. So now you're reframing into where's the beauty. And then the beauty is now of people, of who we are, the essence of us always. You were always that little girl playing and seeing music, and then some really crappy things were going on, but that's your essence. And we all had like that song, This Little Light of Mine. And to remember those lights, because that's what you're talking about, is now we literally get to shine them and reframe the old messages, the old tapes, and kind of rewrite and say, oh, wait a second. Now this is who I am. And now this is who I am. And now this is who I am.
Yes. And it continues to change and grow.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. Yeah. I shared with you when we talked before about when I have my mark making in my work, there's this language that I have developed for me. I did study written languages when my master's program. I can't speak them or understand them, but just the way that they're created and the calligraphy of them and all, I studied that quite a bit. And so I've kind of created my own language. And I had a woman tell me a couple of weeks ago, this is light language. And she said, have you ever died? And I thought, wow,
gee,
so that was exciting. So now I'm trying to find out what that is and, how that comes through me and out, and does it say anything? That was pretty exciting. So every day is a discovery of different parts of us. We're all multifaceted in the things that we can do and be. And so it's just a continuing wonderful journey, truly.
It truly, truly is. And I know we're going to call the name of this particular podcast Expressions of Gesture, because your movie that you got a beautiful Emmy Award for your short documentary, and people can find it on YouTube, is called The Alchemy of Gesture. Did I get that right?
Yes.
So, but you talk about this, that you have, I won't even make a spoiler, but you were talking about gesture and how it's coming out in languages. And so the language of art and the language of music and the language of linguistics, what is vocally coming out, if that's a vocal light language or hand gestures, whatever they may be. That I know is a whole nother show that we're going to do. Just saying, putting that out there. But so our expressions of gesture and what can be kind gestures. This is really why we're here, is to understand all of this needs to come out and through us.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Oh, Karen, so where can people find you? Where would you like people to experience your work or buy your work or commission your work or have you maybe speak with a group or any of these fun things?
Thank you. A great place to start is KarenMosbacher.com. It's pretty easy to find me.
Yeah.
And I have a YouTube page under Karen Mosbacher. I'm on Instagram under Karen Mosbacher. It's very easy to find me. You can contact me through my website, very easy, or through Instagram. And I just do all kinds of things, perform, commissions. I have a show coming up in Colorado Springs in October, downtown, in a gallery there. And some things I can't quite talk about yet, but are all exciting coming up in the next few years.
Beautiful. So fun. Karen, I just love that we got to be together and chat like this and share your work and passions and story. And this is what Lasting Conversations is all about. These are the conversations to have, difficult as they can be. But like we were just sharing, we can take these experiences and let them help somebody else have their experience.
Yes, and that is my hope.
And that is our hope. We'll end on that. We'll always end on the hope and the joy and the love. And cousin, I love you dearly. It's good to see you. Okay.
So happy to see you again.
I know. It's really
Someday
fun. And in person, we'll definitely have a cup of tea for sure. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you'd like to be part of this show, this podcast, please email at podcast@lastingconversations.com. And you can find Lasting Conversations on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This is Lasting Conversations. We get to the heart of everything.